Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. I feel like we need to do something quite special. Ordinarily, we could sacrifice one of us, something like that, because it's 6-0. You saw it there from the technical director, who, I may point out, is wearing a wonderful Fix shirt. Look at that, eh?
I got it like 15 minutes ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was
waiting
on post office. I was waiting for 40 minutes, and I'm like, man, please be fast.
Now, that says a lot to me about the Latvian Post. How many weeks ago, I say years ago, did we actually talk about that? Saying, well, Ray's will be there first, obviously, because Paul's has got to go to America. Ryan's has got to go to Brisbane. I mean, obviously, Brisbane, it's probably going to just materialize.
Yeah. It does. Yeah. It was like at least 3 months ago, to be honest.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is absolutely bananas.
That's you on Brexit. That's not me. That's you on Brexit.
It is. It's all our fault, isn't it? And you know, I think the post service in Latvia is like the green screen service in my house, because this green screen. Watch this. My friggin' side of my head disappears. Oh, what's going on there? If anybody technical out there knows how the frig you solve that,
you cannot have it black. You need to have different color.
Yeah. You have a black background and your black headphones are morphing into it.
Is that what it is? It's just the headphones morphing in.
Yeah. If you had a plain white wall, it'd be sweet.
Yeah.
That's why Paul Linn looks that good. I mean, look at Paul this week, right? Paul, I feel like Paul comes on with themes. You know what I mean? And this week he's a bit mysterious, a bit sinister, a bit dark. Look.
I might kill you and say
that's the hotel lighting, buddy.
Yeah, hotel lighting.
The Texas hotel lighting.
It's casting that like air of mystery, that shadow on you, mate. You know what I mean? Just give us a double bicep there. Just fire a double bicep up. See what I mean? Hey, that's how it's done, ladies. Yes. Well then, guys, show 60. Welcome to the Fix, motherfuckers. We very nearly took this live, didn't we, lads?
Number one arm wrestling podcast in the world.
In the world, as claimed by the delusional Ryan Bowen. Actually, Ryan, let's give some. Let's give that guy someone to work with. Can you claim that the Fix is in fact the best?
I'm not the best fact checker in the world, but yes, I can.
Nice, and I'll take that.
Yeah, I don't normally agree with Ryan, but I'm with him.
Yeah. Even if it's like, you know, sort of bullshit. No. I feel like it's hard to please all the people all the time. You know, I feel like it is.
I do legit think it is, though. I do think we've got more runs on the board than anyone.
I'm not speaking from any kind of authority on this, because I literally have no idea what the people do. But I know that there's a lot of channels that make mine look like tiny. 2 of you are on here. I mean, what are you now? Look, you're like, what are you now? You top 10 in Oz or something, Ryan? In like,
I just looked at it the other day. It was 13th, ranked 13th in Australia for sports YouTube channels. That doesn't really mean much, but I thought it was cool.
Oh, whoa! Wait a minute. Rollie's just popped in. Come on, Rollie.
But Latvia is so much smaller; it doesn't count.
What were you ranked? Second.
Yeah, I couldn't find my channel because it showed that I'm in United States or something, so I changed it back. But I look at Latvia and I look at subscriber and everything else, and I'm like, I'm second.
So you are the biggest sports channel in Latvia.
Yeah, no one knows about it. No one speaks English here.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
How many people in Latvia, eh?
1.8 million on paper.
In Brisbane, they get more people at tournaments than that.
Yeah, I know.
There's more people in Brisbane than that. Yeah. That can do.
Hey, I think we need to do a special in Brisbane and call it From the Source.
Mate, at some stage, when we're COVID clear, that has to happen. Sorry, but we've got to do, we've got to get out there. We've got to be in Brisbane. I feel like if we go out there and I'm at like, whatever the hell I'm at now, 6,500, 7,000 subs, whatever the hell it is. I feel like if I went out there and did Brisbane, I'd come back probably 500,000.
If you got Danny Tesh on the line, you would.
Mate, I miss Danny. I'm not going to lie, I miss that. Where there's been no sightings.
There's been no sightings. I'm getting married in a month's time. I'm going to see. He might turn up to my wedding. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't got an RSVP from him.
I never met him. I still miss him.
I miss him badly, and I feel like at the time he was moving more and more towards, looking like, well, the Messiah. And I feel, whenever I saw a picture, I'm like, there's a lot of similarities there. You know what I mean? So, it is a wedding that you have in there, Ryan. So you just bell me up and let me know if he turns the water into wine. Anything could happen.
Wait, so you sent him an RSVP and you didn't get it back yet?
Well, I haven't got one back from him yet either.
Oh,
I'm not sure if I'll get one.
He doesn't have an address. How dare you mail Danny Tetch something? You better hand deliver that.
Oh, I had to go through the grapevine of the very selective few people that know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows where Danny is.
Wait, so you actually did give it to someone to give it to him?
Yeah, I don't know where he lives.
Now look at that! Look in that match right there. Didn't he win that?
He did. They called the pin early too. The buggers. That was the last time I touched his hand. We were stuck. We were stuck down. We were going to have a 2-3 minute match, and they called a pin that was an inch and a half above the pin line.
I'll tell you what. Still undefeated though, isn't
he? Yeah, he is.
That's why he does it. There he is, ladies and gentlemen.
You don't have any wins on him, Ryan? You haven't flash pinned him?
Oh, I got one win. It's 11-1. 11-1.
I feel like his presence is greatly missed. It really is. Danny?
Yeah. How can you call your show In Presence of Greatness if Danny
he's not? No, that's a great shot. That's the best shot I've ever seen of him. Look at that, look. There's even that omnipotent glow.
Who is that with, Ryan? Who is that with?
Beating Frodo Hoagland. That's him beating Frodo Hoagland. Yeah, that's Frodo Hoagland and Danny.
Oh my God, that's a good shot. Look at that. Look at how that aura that he has around him is even making Bart look more man.
How quick is side note? How quick is Ray at finding photos of the omnipotent Danny?
I feel like he's underrated. That's why he's the technical director. But he can come up with stuff like that. The other week when we were talking about Troll Army, within seconds, bang.
Yeah, bang.
He comes with board zinc. And we were off.
Took me a month and a half to get this backdrop. I'm nervous that every time I open it up, it's not going to be there.
The other way.
Backwards or something.
I think it looks good though. All of you look good apart from me because I keep blending. My head keeps blending into my background. I need to sort it out. I get a lot of comments actually. People sending me over saying things like, "Your backdrop shit, die." Stuff like that. I feel like that level of popularity that only Engin knows. Absolute quality that Michael, Todd, and Ryan have dipped in and out of. Anyway, I'll keep working on it, guys. There's been a lot going on, enormous amount going on. World and get this for a live lineup, right? Since I've mastered live, get this. You heard it here first, and this will be going out relatively soon, so you heard this here first. Actually, Ray, I know I should have talked to you about this on air, but any chance I can book your services, son, for Thursday the 22nd, just as an exclusive to the people here who are watching? The Fix, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Western Survivor, the greatest and best beef jerky the world has ever seen. Yes,
you can, sir. Please, sir.
Because at, what will it be? 8 p.m. and a little clue in here for you guys. At 8 p.m. Tbilisi time, which I believe will probably be something like 5 p.m. Is that going to be over here? So it'll be just after work, earlier than usual. But let me double check these facts.
We can do this off air, no problem.
Okay. Well, why not? I'll tell you what. Let's get straight to the point because we got Levan Saganashvili coming on, ladies and gentlemen. Levan Saganashvili Q&A live. I thought it was great to get Levan on here and get his feelings with all this conversation about, if Michael beats Devon, he is then the world number one, which, that's a very polarizing comment right there.
No, he's not.
I mean,
come on.
Polarizing comment,
The silly comment. But yeah, I get
So-
why some people are saying it. But yeah,
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to get Lamant's take on this whole thing and how he feels about it, what his situation is, any updates from him and the Professional Arm Wrestling League about when we're going to see him in action next and where he's at and so on. But I feel like there was an enormous amount of action or activity, I should say, in Eastern Europe over the weekend. Did anybody catch the stuff that was going on in? What the fluff? We're back on the steps. Now, this has happened to me before. I've been in this park. It's not my first rodeo. The first show we ever did, Talking the Talk.
Yeah, I remember this. I
remember watching it. I didn't believe you for a moment.
Yeah, but I don't. When it happened last time, Neil, the people weren't seeing it though. I see it right now.
Yeah,
it's like we're all sitting behind desks that are steps.
Yeah, Ray's up the top. Now, who's responsible for putting that on?
Wait, are you still seeing it?
I'm on the
Ray,
steps.
of course, Ray doesn't see it. Ray doesn't see it, right?
I see it. I made it happen.
Okay, so Ray put us in the park. It's lovely out today, isn't it? You know,
give me high five.
I like that Ryan now believes me. A long time after this happened the first time.
When I watched that Talking the Talk, I was like, "Nah, Neil's trying to pull the wool over our eyes. What's going on?"
You were like, Neil needs to get off the wobbly eggs. But joking aside, here we are. Now, technical director Ray knows how he did that. How the frick did you do that?
It's a secret.
What? Why in the park though? Why these steps?
I guarantee no one sees this. I guarantee this is just
so
us.
nobody watching the show is going to actually see that at the moment we're depicted on a set of
I'm looking
parts.
at my icon up in the corner and my backdrop looks normal. I guarantee no one sees this.
How does
you
this
can't
look?
see it, it's totally ridiculous.
Okay, Ray, can you get us back onto normal screen?
Why?
Because it's weirding me out a little bit. It's quite like odd.
You're like, oh no, where am I?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'll continue. Why not? We're on top of the park steps. Okay, let's go. So let's go. I feel like there was a lot of activity over in Eastern Europe over the weekend, and for me personally, the most interesting stuff we got to see Mozarov tested a little bit. Now, I spoke to Engin Terzi the other day, and he knows a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy, and he said to me that this guy told him that the super match lefty that they had, was it lefty? Or was it right, actually? It might have been right, but the super match that Mozarov had on the right arm, was fake. Okay?
That's what I heard.
That was fake because of the fact that there was no money in it, really. But that on the Sunday, when they had the open competition right arm, he was going to really go for it. And then I heard from a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy that he got hurt and that he was injured. And it certainly looked like that when you watch the footage back. But what it did show was the left arm, he seemed to be
mega.
Really, really, really strong. Then on the right arm, depending what degree of damage he had, the arm strength is relatively unquestionable, but he can be counter top rolled. And, you know, it depends on, let's see what transpires and how much damage has been done. But it was really interesting. I've wanted to see that for a while. You know, where's he at against some of the names, some of the faces? We'd seen him against Saranov once before, but that was the only real outing I'd seen of Mozarov recently, apart from the Arif 10 match. So, did anybody draw any conclusions from that, guys?
I did a video on him.
Oh, here we go.
This is the super match. So this is the thing that everyone was like, that doesn't look right, because so okay, let's go. First round, they go. He loses the hand. Leszczyk is very holding on, like, but his hand is lost.
Mm-hmm.
And they stay there for quite a while, you know, like 10, 15 seconds. And then you see round number 2.
And it's just bang, isn't it? Straight.
And it's just bang in.
Yeah.
You know, they're like.
Now, you wonder whether. So, I mean, there you can see it's false, really. Look, you know, but at the end of the day, do you think that in this, because he's sort of going from a relaxed to a pulling state, do you think he's damaged himself during this? And that's why he ended up in such a bad way Or do you think he's just stretched things off a little bit? It's very difficult to say, isn't it? But I feel like it might have robbed us of the opportunity of seeing where he's really at.
He did. He certainly looked like he let up then in that round there that we just saw. He had the wrist control, the wrist flexion in, and then just decided.
He pulled a week before, and then between he pulled with Vitali. So like, how fresh can you be? You know, pulling like and a week before it wasn't like easy guys there. They were really strong dudes. Yeah. But his left has always been better. I just did a video. I haven't yet posted it, but his left has always been and done much better than his right. But his right is catching up. I think his left might be like that elite level. You know the right. It's not there yet. But
Well, it was interesting to me because I had a lot of messages to the channel, people sending stuff on like, "Oh, did you see Morozov pulling with Vitali?" And same, just to answer those people that send those messages over. That was to me. I took literally nothing from that. Literally nothing.
Yeah, it was.
It just, didn't make any. It makes no odds. One thing as far as I'm concerned, it was just rolling around on the practice table. It's the same as. Did I take anything from Toddzilla and Michael Todd? Not really. There's nothing in there. But it's a guy that I'm very interested to see. It's funny, isn't it? How Eastern Europe always seems to throw up these characters where you really want to see them arm wrestle and just see where they're at. I've never heard Morozov speak, really. Does he speak English, Ray? Do you know?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But the guy that he was arm wrestling. Okay. Who do we lose?
We lost Paul, and then he came back in, I think.
Okay. The guy he was arm wrestling.
Sorry, guys.
Shchuk. He won 2018, 2019 Zloty Tour Super Heavyweights.
Yes.
In January, I think, or February, he beat Oguzhan Kochak in a super match. When everyone thought like Kochak is a monster,
And let's be honest, he is.
Yeah. And very decisively. So the guy was strong. I don't know which he got in absolute and I don't think they have posted the results from Siberia yet. But,
no, I haven't seen them anyway.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them. But interesting competition over there. Tainoff looking very, very strong. Another solid puller. There are so many. I love the fact that so many of these guys fly under the radar over there. It's very interesting. But as I say, want to get more of these Eastern European stars on here. If we could get, does more? I'm taking it Morozov speaks Russian.
Yes.
So if anybody can let us know how we can get to him, I'd love to get him on. I'd love to get Morozov on and just pick his brains, maybe do a deep inside with him, a deep inside live, something along that. What are we doing here, lads? Just now, if anybody out there is wondering what the hell was going on there, I was for a minute as well. Yeah, thanks for that, mate. It could have been a lot worse.
I don't see what's the lineup for you, because for me, I'm not even. I see you 3. I don't see myself.
Well,
I guess you were.
I'm right between Paul and Ryan, and they were both just doing a couple of hand gestures on me there. Not that kind of hand gesture, ladies and gentlemen. It's not like
Ryan, put that phone away.
I want to take a photo of it. I want to show you, Ray. I want to show you what we're doing. Do it one more time, Paul. There you go. I'll send it to you, Ray.
Thank you very much. This used to be a serious show. Obviously, we'd throw a few world-class jokes in now and again. But I feel like today we started in a strange place. I do. Anyway, Jordan Sill. Jordan Sill, another guy that's coming on the lines. And I feel like Jordan Sill is a guy that never gets talked about.
I see normal grid view. It's not for me like this.
Right.
We're on the steps, Ray. We're on the. You put us on the steps.
We're on the steps. Take us. However you got us on the steps, take us off the steps for a minute.
For me, it's not on steps.
It's on steps for me.
We're on the steps.
We are definitely on the steps.
I can't stop laughing. You guys are talking about Morozov, and I'm trying to contain myself from bloody laughing and looking at you all on the steps.
Is it on?
It's on the steps still.
I don't know what happened there.
Right. Whoa. I can't see me now when I'm off the steps. What's going on? Anyway, enough of this bloody rubbish. So, Jordan Sill. How good is he? And I'm going to start with Paul Linn.
He's really, really good. He's really, really, really good. And I mean, I know like over time people talk about him like being like, highs and lows. And I think, even the guys in his training camp talk about inconsistencies like that. But when he is good and trained up and healthy, he's as good as anybody at that 225 range. And I do think that it has to do a little bit with weight. I know he says he can get down to that 205, that 198 and everything else, but I think his track record has proven that his sweetest spot is that 225, or that 235 cut to 225.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting that, I did a number of shows which spoke about the middleweight division and guys most likely in the middleweight division. There's always that sort of transition between, I feel like the middleweight division, you can easily see those guys competing like where you are, Paul, at that sort of 220 mark. Ryan's done a bit at that as well. I think the match with Rob Vigent was going to be slightly higher, just so it was comfortable for both guys. BLM, we've just seen come out, and he's bigger. He's visibly bigger. We'll get into that. But he's visibly bigger. Now, of all of that crop that have done that, I feel like Jordan still looked the best bigger.
Yeah, I don't think that there's really an argument there. And like, that's not me saying like, oh, okay, he can't pull at 205 or he can't pull at 195. I mean, he's done some really good things there. I just think his inconsistencies with that cut have really diminished where his level actually is. And I think when he's at that healthy 230, 235 walk around, because that's where he wants to settle. Yeah. I think Ryan and I are more like that right around under 220, between 215. That's where we're naturally at and probably not going to get much bigger then. Whereas Jordan's stature is larger than Ryan and I's. His shoulders are broader. Huge, his arms are probably longer. He's a little bit over 6'2". Like he's got that true 225 frame. Like, and when you look at all the rest of those guys in the United States that are there, or North America, like you say, all right, Devin made the cut. Matt Mass made the cut. Marcio makes the cut. I think Jordan has the sweetest spot, where he doesn't have to make that crazy drastic cut. Yeah. And his body can hold about up to 245 if he wanted to.
Yeah, he does look good there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He looks really solid. So the reason I raised that, there goes Rue. Nice. Fixed cat in the mother fluffing house. There it is. Classic. There's the classic cattail hard-on shot for Ray as he blends into his background, and the only thing there right in between his legs is a massive cattail. I love it. Recreated all over the world, that one on Instagram. Anyway, back on topic. We got a lot of comments where Ray had said he wasn't convinced about Rob Vigent. Now, we know two things are certain. First, look at Ray like, I didn't say that.
No, in what context? I'm not convinced by what.
Right, here we go. Yeah. I think you said he's not proven was the comment, and we had a lot of people sent us emails over saying, can you raise on the next question, why does Ray feel that he's not convinced by Rob? And I sort of felt like I could encapsulate that quite quickly, but I wanted to just throw it over to you to sort of explain to people why. Because I think the comment you made was that sort of got a lot of the North American audience reacting, was I haven't seen Rob pull yet against guys who I rate as being stiff competition. And I said something along the lines of, I think there's a perception that some of the lads that he's beaten aren't as strong as they potentially are. And Jordan would be one of those lads for me, Now, if you think about it, he's beaten Jordan, Storm, Craig Touye when Craig Touye was fine and healthy and firing on all cylinders. Just where do you rate those that level of competition, Ray? In your mind, do you see those guys not being in the same league or at the same level as the top Eastern Europeans? So, to put it another way, now that we've sort of verbalized and COVID permitting, agreed the match with Sasho and Rob at the Arnold Classic, do you believe that Rob has not faced anyone of that level before at that weight class?
Like, I don't know. Because, like, all those guys you just mentioned, like, they haven't really been competing with this, like, no Zloty Tour, WAF World Championship, the toughest competition with the toughest competitors that are proven world champs. Like, if you go to WAF World Championship, sorry?
Todd Hutchins, Rob's pulled Todd a lot.
Okay, he pulled Todd Hutchins. Todd Hutchins is, and last time he lost to him, Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, 3-2 or something.
Yeah.
That's
But
my
But he's got a good record against Todd.
like it's not that I'm saying someone is weak or not deserving. I just don't know. We need to have those matches so we can figure. Whenever someone says place me like where Rob is in 1995, I'm like, I really don't know. He could be right there. That maybe the champ. We just don't know. And if we,
I think it's just a perception thing, because it's easy to say the exact same thing of Sasha, that he hasn't gone to North America yet and proven himself.
Right.
It's just which team are you on?
Right. I see it exactly like that, Ryan. I think that it's a two-way street. I think that both are not tested in either environment. And I think when you start talking about like the best of Eastern Europeans, I think that it's like if Rob was going to have problems with anything going over to Europe facing the best, it would really be establishing back into those rigid rules that we have gotten so accustomed to not dealing with in the United States. And I think the same thing vice versa. If that match happens over here with like WAL rules or looser refereeing, I think that it favors Rob more because he's used to it. I think Rob, like strength-wise, like in a slow rolling power pull type situation, I really think that he can hang with those guys. But I do think that he could be susceptible to fast dead load starts, and we would be in an instance sometimes where we might not be able to see the best of them. And then there's also that factor that, what version of Rob is going to show up. I think the Sasha match is going to really fish out the best version of Rob, which is why it's so interesting to me, because he really is that anomaly where, it's really, really hard to keep him focused. But I think if we see a focused version of him, then we're going to see where he's truly at.
And I think you make a really good point on that one, Paul, to be honest, because there's a lot of examples, isn't there, of top class pullers going over and sort of experimenting with a different event for them. And you have a lot of factors then that come into the discussion. The travel, sleep patterns, whatever it may be, because in reality of things, a lot of these guys, when you do go over and do that, we're not in the situation like a professional soccer player when you're out there for a week before acclimatizing. All that 90% of the time, a lot of the lads that go out there are out there maybe a day before, 2 days max. They'll arrive, then the next day is the weigh-in or weight cut, whatever it may be. Then they compete, and we've seen a lot of that both ways. One of the guys who I rate most highly in the world in terms of just an extraordinarily complete arm wrestler will be Giannis Amelins. And yet the first time out when Giannis went over to the WAL, he really struggled to adapt. He then went back to the WAL for the regionals and was struggling in the event and was hung up by guys that you wouldn't necessarily expect to hang him up. And we've seen other evidence of that through his career. Justin Bishop being one. The regional where he damaged his thumb was another one. Now, you could say, okay, well, the injury forced him out. Yes, the injury did force him out, but Giannis was struggling at that time.
Right.
And I'm sure that some of that is not down to Giannis being any less of an arm wrestler at that time. It's just maybe that he's out of his comfort zone a little bit. He's had to do more traveling, more things that have affected his body, his pattern, his normal pattern.
Whoever is going to someone is a disadvantage. Yeah,
definitely.
Be there a week early, at least adapt. But and still you will be in a disadvantage all the time.
Hermes and Max. Sorry, Brian, go.
I've invested so much time and energy when I started pursuing arm wrestling. One of the first things I did was master and experience the setups of referees and the conditions of the fight. That for me was hugely valuable. And so my one experience in Poland, I felt like a fish out of water in that. I was like, whoa, I'm getting in trouble from the refs for the things that I don't normally get in trouble from. And it just felt different. Everything about it felt different. So,
and I remember I sent you messages. I said, like, practice the rules. I sent both to you. Like, practice. And it's such an, like, you don't think it's a big deal. It's a huge deal.
God,
real quick, one example. Like one example, we went to, 2016, 17, we went to Norway to referee their nationals, and they just had WL qualifiers.
Yeah.
the first, like the left hand, all the matches, we had almost everyone losing on fouls and everyone moving in referee's grip. And then I said, stop. I had David Sheed with me. I said, David, tell him it's WAF rules, because everyone forgot. And next time we went, everyone was fine. It's a huge difference.
Yep.
Massive difference.
And
Massive.
Ryan,
Because
honestly, when I watch you and Zlati, like, not to like make an excuse or anything for you, but I could see it written all over you. I could see it like in your energy that you were slowed down. You were slowed down by the fear of fouling. It was very obvious, you know, and honestly, that's something that worries me, you know, because I rely at times, depending on if I know it's a faster opponent, I rely on load. And if you can't load at all, that's something that we don't experience here in the United States. You shut so much down with a load when it comes to these fast pullers. And I mean, I think from the United States, the only like good example of a transition person over there is Dan Mosier, and it's the style. You know, I think the guys like Dan Mosier and Craig Touye will do okay in that setting and will be fairly comfortable. But like my primary training partner, Paul Talbot, right now, I mean, we've talked about him going over his experience in WAF. And guys, listen, Paul Talbot is the undisputed left-handed 198 or 176 or 187 or whatever you want to call it, because he can make all those weights. And he went over there at 87, I think 87. And guys that I know that his arm and his hand is stronger than, he was getting smashed by. And if you ask him, he literally, because Paul can be like a pessimistic type guy and really negative, but he's like, don't even bother going on over there. Those guys are killers. Don't even bother. They're killers. You got to be born that way, or you got to train like that since you're 5. Don't bother. So that's the way he talks about it.
Well, it's funny because this is the other question I got. So this is from Simon T. So Simon, just to answer your question, mate, where he just put Neil. I listened to a number of the shows, love what you're doing, but want to try to understand as a newbie why you seem to have so much faith in North American arm wrestlers versus the Europeans. So it's almost like the counter of what you said to Ray. But in order to answer that, it's pretty much encapsulated in what we've been discussing here. And I'm trying to take the factors that Ray and Ryan and Paul just were talking about there and literally give them due consideration. So look at the arm wrestler and how they're competing in their sort of native rules set country, environment, whatever you want to describe it as, and then look at how they do when they're over there and their sort of frequency of competition at that level. And I'll try and give you some examples of what I mean. I did the one with Yanis one way a second ago. Other examples that I would give would be when I've seen people like, and as a new arm wrestler, you won't remember Kevin Bongard, so I'll leave Kevin Bongard out of it. But for those arm wrestlers that do know who Kevin Bongard is, then he would have been a good example when he went over there and pulled in the Zloty Tour once and did exceptionally well, beating guys like Krasimir Kostadinov and so on. And Krasi, at any time in his career, if you chart that, is a savage, exceptional arm wrestler. And Kevin went over there and beat him. You know, amongst other top-class pullers. He was really on fire. Other examples in the same sort of trajectory would be people like Herman Stevens. And again, Simon, if you don't know Herman Stevens has been over to Zloty Tour. I think he placed third when he was pulling, as I understand it, and I'm sure Herman can put in the comments if I'm incorrect, but I think around that time he was pulling pretty strongly, didn't have too many injury wars, and he has been troubled by injuries in the past. Then I look at Herman and his relative standing in the United States, and I'm trying to factor in those things to think, okay, so if this guy goes over there and he has more of an understanding and a familiarity with the rules, the referees, he doesn't have the travel, he doesn't have all the other things that he's gone through to get there, where do I believe he's capable of finishing in that set? And I'm thinking that he is banging away. He's there. Could he conceivably get a win that day? Yes, but certainly, you know, he did podium and at his very best. And let's be honest, at anybody's very best at that level, you're talking about fine margins of error. If you make a mistake, if you're slightly slower than your opponent off the go, particularly with an arm wrestler like Herman, who's not necessarily the fastest guy in the world, he's got to get what he needs off the start to allow him to accelerate. And I think if he gets that, he can do very well over there. And I've seen other examples. Mosier, another one. relatively recently, and we know that he did well over there. Now, I'm aware of all the arguments. I would endorse all the arguments about the Nemiroff Cup that year not being as hard. I get it, all of those things. But nevertheless, I do believe that Dan is a tricky customer and would beat a lot of guys anyway, just because of that. Just because he is, the way he pulls. Jeff Hale going out there and competing in the WAF at a time when he is not familiar with the WAF. Almost, it's like he's Antichrist. He spent the 90% of his time pulling in supermatch format and in format that's very different to that, and yet he was competitive. And to be honest, Simon, that's why I, and anybody else out there who's wondering about that, that's why I would say that it's not as black and white as you might think. There are a lot of other factors that are involved there. And sometimes you'll find that these guys are more competitive or a little bit closer than you think, depending on how the match takes place. And I think in the past there's been that argument's got lost a little bit, and a lot of people out there would think that there's only some kind of parity that exists at the super heavyweight division. Now, just to build on that, however, one thing that I would say is that, in my opinion, there is a much greater degree or depth of high-level competitor in Europe. Yeah. That is my honest opinion. That's not taking away anything from the North Americans. As I say, I rate the North Americans very highly, and the very best of the North Americans can do a job in some instances, you know. But what I would say is that there is that sort of elite level. Take the elite level out of it. Take your Makarovs, take your Alan Zaloevs, take those guys out of it, okay? And just go a couple of tiers down, a tier down. There are more of those guys in Eastern Europe, in my opinion, than there are anywhere in the world.
If you had the top 100 from Europe against the top 100 from North America,
crushing victory, probably, but they are going to batter you, because and a lot of the reason for that is the approach to strength sports culturally in those countries is just different.
Well, here's an interesting perspective, like contrast to that, and Neil, you can tell me what you think. But I think, and after talking to a lot of arm wrestlers over here, I think a potential advantage that we have with the loose rules and the things that I don't want to say technique. It's not technique. It's taking advantage of the setup or the referee or the situation to gain an advantage. I think that in North America, quote unquote cheating or whatever, setup manipulation, we have an edge in. I really do. And the only reason I say that is because the Northeast and New York is a big stronghold for some Eastern Europeans that come over. And we get to practice with some pretty high level dudes that make their way in and out of New York. Mm-hmm. And there are certain aspects that we have an advantage in, namely the strap. I don't know how much, I don't pull outside the strap. I don't see a value in it really, because I know anybody good in the United States in a WAL setup is taking me to the strap. So I have to master those strap setups and what can I get? And I notice a major laxness in the setup in the strap. So I don't think maybe I think you're right. The strength background, the importance of strength at a young age is higher over there. But I think our longevity over here is due to really mastering certain nuances and how the rules work here. And the inability to do that, like in WAF rigid rules, is also a disadvantage. I don't know if I'm on to something.
Well, just to sort of build on the point I was making there a second ago, okay? To support what I was saying, you got a lot of people who probably don't agree with that, and that's fair enough. Everybody's opinion varies. But what I would say is this: you often see, okay, here's an example for you: Swedish ladies, right? So is it fair to say that the Swedish ladies are a superpower of female arm wrestling? I would say that it is. Okay, they have got a massive amount of world-class talent in Sweden in the female division. Now, is that because, let's sort of break that down. Is that because that there is a approach to female arm wrestling, a perception of female arm wrestling, a cultural perception that has sort of fed ladies into the sport of arm wrestling. And I would argue very, very strongly that that is the case due to the fact that you've got originally the whole buzz around Heidi Anderson. Okay, when Heidi was at her best, and they did the old, the arm wrestler from the Solitude and so on and so on, and it blew up over there. She got the Swedish Sports Personality of the Year, for Christ's sake. In England that'd be David Beckham or Lewis Hamilton. Over there it was Heidi Anderson. Now that's ace. That's wonderful. Iron dick. I love that happens, right? But what that then results in is that suddenly you have this crop of other, and there's other people that influence that as well. Marlon Kleinsmith, Fia Asik, all killers, And before them, the originator was Anna Pettersson. But it was Heidi's explosion. That sort of thing around Heidi was when the Swedish ladies just went stratospheric. If you chart it back, it's post that. Now, are the Swedish women genetically different? No. Are they balls? No. There's more of them, and they're training in a wider circle of high-level arm wrestlers, and therefore you end up with a country that is very, very strong in that sport. And I want to say that same exact situation manifests itself and presents itself all over the world in different sports, not just arm wrestling. But what you also see is that in all of these countries, where you have a pocket of excellence, someone who's doing something very, very well, you suddenly, around that sort of embryo, you get a lot of really high-level competition, Let's look at Giannis around where he is. Around Giannis, there's suddenly a collection of frigging killers. Around Engin Terzi, a collection of killers. Around Svetan Gashevsky, a collection of killers from Bulgaria. And the same situation. So the factors that are influencing that for me are culturally the approach to the sport of arm wrestling, the centers of excellence that exist within there. And in North America, that just doesn't exist. You'll find clubs. Look at Devon Larratt and the High Hookers. When Devon started going there and he was training in that way and it was all about the club, suddenly the High Hookers had a lot of top-class pullers out there. You were getting guys like Alan Ford going around and kicking the shit out of people. And the same situation manifests itself so many times. But mostly in the United States of America, you've got a few outliers, a few weirdos that are genetically gifted or more dedicated than others. And then you've got the guy that works all week, maybe 6 days a week, got a family, arm wrestles with his buddies a few times. In Russia, in Ukraine, in Kazakhstan, in Turkey, in a lot of areas where there is a reward, a financial reward, and a reward around the way that you're perceived within society, it breeds people to go in and to train harder and to train differently and more professionally. And that's why you've got that depth of ability. That's my opinion on it.
You nailed it there with the financial thing. And my opinion heavily sits in the fact that if you look at the financial situations for the athletes in Europe versus North America, it's very different. But I actually think in one respect, North America has the advantage. North America is the commercial center of the world when it comes to sports, entertainment, advertising. There's more money spent on advertising in North America than there is in Europe. There's just by 10x in terms of commercial side of things. So if you're the top guy in North America, you actually make more money in a commercial sense than the guys in Europe. You can look at that as Devon and Michael on YouTube, or you can look at that in terms of the amount of third-party sponsors that are willing to get on to a big level for an individual. So once you make the top rank in North America, you have greater access to money, which, as you said, is a great motivator. So the top guys in North America are going to work hard because of money. But the lower guys in North America who don't have access to that same commercial cream, they're not going to work as hard. And because there's no government support like there might be in Georgia, there isn't a depth to it. So money and motivation and culture, as you said, is a big thing. But I think that the structure of where the money comes in is just different for Eastern Europe. And Europe results in depth. And to me, North America results in solid cream at the top. It was interesting and the one that I wanted to mention, Sweden females as well, as you said. I've asked Fia and Marlon before, why specifically are the females so amazing in Sweden? And she said, it's very much because Heidi got it into the schools. She said, 12-year-old girls are often more dominant than the 12-year-old boy. And getting the sport into schools all these young girls got the bug of victory, and by getting into school, those girls grew up and wanted to remain in the sport for cultural reasons. They'd already fallen in love with it. So, yeah, and that was kind of Heidi's influence, as you said. But, yeah, money, I think the way money goes in the sport is really the big dictator to how much time you can dedicate to it. At the end of the day, if it's not paying you anything, you have to go to work. But if it's paying you something, you're going to give more time and energy to it. You're going to become a better arm wrestler.
Ray, you're probably as close as anybody to this as well on the Eastern European thing. I mean, the earnings attached to arm wrestling, or the earnings potential attached to arm wrestling, is in some respects more of a difference maker, I think, isn't it? For some of the Eastern European countries, particularly the poorer ones, you know.
Of course. But yeah, like whatever Ryan, like all the things that Ryan said is correct, 100% correct. It's like USA is one big country. All of them speak English. You add Canada, they still Canadians, but they speak English. Like we are different. It's very hard to advertise something here when everyone would see it and get it. So it's a collection of countries with different incentives, with different things. I have a question for Paul. I heard, but I don't know if it's true. Does your athletes for winning Olympics, does government give them money or no money? No money.
No.
It's amateur.
No.
Yeah, this is the interesting thing that
They're
I
amateur.
heard. And I never knew, because for us, like if we win world championship and it's like arm wrestling, like non-Olympic sport, we'll get like, I don't know, 11,000 euros. Like the coach has half of that, the athlete has that sum. And if you win Olympic event, you know, that's twice as much. So close to 20,000.
But I suppose the way to view that, Ray,
and
is
Olympics,
that you get paid to train.
Yeah, and Olympics, it's 100,000 euros if you win.
You're talking about for the win.
For the win.
Yeah.
All right.
The big difference, right? Australia's the same. Australia's the same as USA. The big difference is if you win the Olympics as an Australian or as an American, more likely to end up on the Wheaties box and paid by the Wheaties.
Right.
Yeah.
But see,
if you're gold medaling, you're getting sponsorship.
Yeah.
You're making
but
money.
that's like like for us, like 8th place in Olympics will still get money for government. Like first of all, like all of those are people in systems, so they get paid by doing things. And I really believe most of European countries do it, because athletes are really like I think it's the non-capitalist system where they're like, if you make name for yourself, that's good. But if you guy who got 5th place, sorry, for us, 5th place guy will still get, you know, taken care of.
But the system was reflected in arm wrestling in terms of the arm wars scenario. What I did exactly with arm wars was that. And if you chart it back, if you sort of, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, isn't it? You know, if you say to somebody, you know, you're successful here, you build yourself a legacy here, you will get noticed and you will be on other big promotions, because that's what happens. Oh, Ryan, you're making me hungry, mate. So in arm wars, I would say, right, okay, you know, we can't do a
pulse here. We go and grab a plate.
I wish, mate. I'll tell you what, if this was Devon, he'd be through about 4 by now. But you wouldn't be paying all of the athletes in the same way. So they wouldn't come over and every single one competing for money. But what we did say is, you know, we'll put you up in accommodation. So you get over here. Sometimes they'd compete for money. Sometimes they wouldn't. But what we guaranteed was that you would have a situation where if you make a name for yourself there, you're going to boost your career enormously in the sport of arm wrestling, because all eyes are on you. We'd have a situation where 9 million people sometimes would tune into what we're doing on Eurosport. Massive numbers. Our record number of viewers at any one time was 9 million, which I was very, very proud of. In sort of 60 plus countries, we were translated into more than 50 languages. So you were getting noticed. And a lot of the guys that excelled in that league have then gone on to get international recognition. The likes of Frode Haugland, Janis Amelins, Nicholas Nanastad, Andy Barker at that time.
Jeff
Hale, Michael Todd, Devon Larratt. All started. Some guy called Devon, Canadian dude.
Canadian, okay.
Yeah,
hey,
eats a lot.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, got massive. Way of the side tit.
Okay.
He's on it. He's on it.
Way of the side tit.
Way of the side tit. He's getting side tit. I love that Devon has a bit of side tit. But
can we talk about that at some point here?
I can talk about whatever you like because I love that he's massive. He's massive.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get. Like, I'm trying to, like, you know, somebody posted something in the discussion group, like, you know, who wins, Fat Devin or Jack Mike? Like, and I don't honestly, like, is Devin at an advantage because Mike's lean, and I think Mike's only like 255 right now.
Yeah.
Strong though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Mike has previously
Lean.
declared, like, Mike has experimented with being Fat Mike, and he says that Jack Mike is better than Fat Mike. So
well, let's
he's
right.
happy.
the white elephant in the room here, guys. Michael Todd is not that big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, Mike's like 6'3". You know, he's only a couple of inches, inch and a half taller than me. Mike's not a massive guy. Devon's a goddamn giant.
Mm. So we've never seen Fat Devon before. Like we just haven't. We've seen not Fat Devon. He's going for Fat Devon at this time. Like he really is.
Yeah, he
and
is.
I think that I from my own personal experience, when I've done that on one occasion where I said, no, I'm in a really dirty bulk for a 3-month period, and I just want to be as strong as I can, and I think this will be it. I felt phenomenal. I won my Queensland state titles. I beat all of the supers, and I did it easy. And I was like, oh, man, wow, I feel strong. But I was fat. So, I don't know.
Reverse side of that. You know, flip side.
Yeah.
I've done bulk since 2009, and some nights I feel like killing myself. and in no way strong, Ryan. In no way strong. No.
Yeah. I don't know. My suspicions, I was initially on the Mike's going to win this. He's in too good a form. But the fatter Devon gets, the more I'm like, I'm starting to vote for Devon.
You're so influenced, aren't you? You are the most. Every time there's a big match coming up, it's like you're on a swing, isn't it?
Well, these guys are knife edge every day. Every day of the week, they're knife edge. This is just a new factor we haven't seen, and I don't know. I think Fat Devon's going to be a different beast,
mate. I think it don't come down to fat. I think it comes down to ready. Honestly, I just think it comes down to. I think he can. The fat thing's a good distraction for the social media, side of things and what have you. And it's a lot more fun than cutting weight. I'll tell you that now, because there's no doubt about it. It's a great way of being. If it's like Kentucky, I'm in. You know what I mean? No problem. But will it make that much difference to the match? I think the real thing there is just how ready he can be, how physically strong he can be, regardless of whether he's fat, thin, or indifferent. I think there's been, when I seen Devon at his strongest, he wasn't fat, and he was really, really strong. But what he was doing is arm wrestling a massive amount. And I think his approach, you know, we spoke recently, and we got, just so people know, this weekend we've got Michael and Devon on lives. Saturday night, Monster Michael Todd, fan Q&A. Sunday night, we got No Limits Devon Lara. Both men coming on to answer your questions. Should be great, and we're gonna sort of do a little bit of a deep inside analysis on that as well. But these are the kind of things that we want to bring up in those chats, and to get your take on, guys. When Devon was at his very best, if you say that time was 2007, 2008, you know, he wasn't fat then.
No, yeah.
But
I talk. Go.
You go.
You keep eating. Yeah. I talked with Devon, and I asked like this question. I'm like, do you really like? Last time they pulled, the endurance was the big factor, and the bigger you get, most likely the worse your endurance is gonna be. And he said, and I understand. He was pretty weak and he was pretty sick, and the fastest way to get back would not be on a strict diet, you know, counting calories and drinking his protein shake and just straight. For him, I like it's 2 months away, a little bit, six weeks. Yeah. Okay. So he will get as big as he can just to get his body fueled up, and he arm wrestles a lot. So I believe he will be strong, and I believe the weight will drop down. I think it's like refeeding right now. Like if he would have chosen like the slow approach, he wouldn't hit that, you know, get everything back. I understand, but if he comes really fat in, I think it's a huge disadvantage. I think he still needs to eat for 2 weeks and then just let his body accustom to whatever it is, you know.
The funny thing is, he's not as heavy as
Right.
we've seen him, is he? I think was that what you were saying there, Paul? He's not as big as we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, what was the match that he came in at like
277?
270? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it was
that is
277 in a pair of. I mean, he had like beachcomber kecks and basically one of his super light t-shirts, and that was it. And he was 277 when he pulled Chafee. Watched him actually on the scale.
Yeah.
So we'd just come up. To be fair, we'd just been eating. We'd literally. You were there, right?
Yeah.
It'd just been the day you nearly died in that restaurant when you went white as a ghost and buggered off. We went back upstairs. He weighed in. And he was 277. So post food, what are you going to put on then?
It could have. I mean, somebody as big as him probably could fluctuate 10 pounds on a meal.
Yeah, there you go. So say there's 10 pounds in that.
Yeah, even 67. I mean, that's still enormous. You know what I think is interesting is it demonstrates really. First off, we know how far Michael Todd's willing to go to win, whether it be in preparation or whether it be on the table that moment. And we know Devin's a warrior the same way. But when you look at the perspective of like Devin just came off of being really, really sick with the deep vein thrombosis or whatever, and when he was explaining it, he talked about his diet and he talked about his hydration. And here we are a couple months later, he's recovering from that and he's got the biggest match of his life or whatever. And he's saying, screw it. I'm going to get as big as possible. I don't care about all that. So I think it's an interesting approach. But I think like Ray's saying, the endurance thing, I mean, everybody who's involved in strength knows the bigger you are, normally like your gym movements and your general strength is going to be higher. But me personally, when my diet's not clean and I'm bigger and bloated and carved and everything, I might feel strong in those gym movements or those 1-rep movements, but I don't feel good, and I don't feel good and healthy, and I don't feel great when it comes to, duration effort.
Yeah. I'm the other way.
You're the other way, are you, Ryan? So yeah.
I've never been lean ripped, dude. I just haven't. I've always had a decent percentage of body fat on me.
Hey, you turned into a garlic for no apparent reason there.
You hear it?
Sorry?
Yeah, I could hear your audio went utterly shite there.
Oh, am back?
No, it's still shite.
No. I didn't change anything.
You sound like
dial off and jump back in.
Yeah. He's a
Decepticon. You've been fine up to that point, but you've gone back to. We used to love Pilot Ryan, but that's less Pilot Ryan, more Wanker Dalek.
Decepticon.
Wanker Dalek's not good, is it? Nobody likes Wanker Dalek. Right, try.
I knew it. I always knew.
You did technical director. You know.
Any better?
No.
Oh, Wanker Dalek. What's going on?
Tell us. I came to destroy your planet.
I came to destroy your planet.
Oh.
Man, if you could hear yourself, that's so.
I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea.
Have you poured your drink?
Tell that story.
Like that, mate. I mean, your mother would slap you.
Hang on. Let me unplug my mic.
There you go. You're back.
What? You serious?
As soon as you stood up, you're back again.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You obviously conducted electricity through your hairy ginger balls on your chair, and it's cocking up your mic, sending out some kind of static radiation.
There you go. Well, I don't know. Whatever it is, maybe Danny walked past or something. I don't know.
Classic case of rusty nut audio interference. Is that a thing?
But anyway, so I was in the middle of saying that I'm the opposite. That fat for me, I've always been fat, and if I've tried to, like, sometimes people have said to me, "Dude, you'd be so much more competitive if you just lost some fat because you'd be in a lower weight class, and then you'd be just as strong." And I've tried that a few times, and I'm not. It doesn't work. I am better off with the bit of fat on me, and I'm much more competitive as I am.
I think it depends what you're having how much you're depleting, doesn't it?
It's so much about that sweet spot, though. Figuring out your own body and where your sweet spot is. And I mean, you see all these guys that can transition up, but like, look at Devin at 225. Devin is the man. Like, and just trying to come up, maybe 20, 30 more pounds. He's got to fight so much harder.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are an hour in to this episode of The Fix, and I think Show 60 is probably in the books, ladies and gentlemen. I want to, before we get off here, say a massive thank you to all my co-hosts, technical director, and the man's sat there with the VOA sign behind him. Is Rollie Royce. Go over and check out the Voice of Arm Wrestling, guys. I just was reminded this week by a mate of mine who started in arm wrestling, and he's got into there and he's been checking out the Voices stuff. It is the place. If you're coming into arm wrestling, that's the place. Go and check out the stuff, an absolute wealth of knowledge they've got over there on how to do exercises, how to perform those exercises, how to get yourself strong as an arm wrestler. Fundamentally, it is absolutely outstanding archive of stuff that they've built up over time. So get yourself over to, it's in the description, Voice of Arm Wrestling. Get over there and check it out. From Lethal Arms is the very sexy, white up Paul Linn, who is got up at silly o'clock to do this show, showing the commitment that mother fluffer has. And we're working, for those of you who've sent in messages about they want to see Paul Linn in action, we are working on getting Paul Linn in action in October, COVID permitting. Going to throw him into some horrific match of some description. Last but by no means least, filling his Ginger Lake face, it's Ryan Bowen in the mother fluffing house. He will also be coming over. Well, we hope so, because Australia's shut down, isn't it, mate? You can't travel pretty much at all.
Just getting back in. Yeah, getting back into the habit.
So we'll check that out as well. But check out Ryan Bowen, ladies and gentlemen, 13th largest and most successful sporting channel on YouTube in the Shite region. What about that? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been The Fix. If you did like the show, please like, share, subscribe. Have it tattooed on your floppy dog. Tell people about it. And until we see you next time, right here on the Supernatural Strength Channel, take it easy, peeps.
Iron Deck.